Compared to Europe, we have a healthy-ish unemployment rate, but we still suffer the same as European countries, where we still have high unemployment between the 18 and 24-year age range. So if we look at Malaysia, it's only 3.3%. Singapore suffers from underemployment, which is the opposite to unemployment. Thailand is low, and Vietnam is about 2.3%. The majority of Vietnam's unemployment, again, is that 18 to 24 age range. What you find in Vietnam is there's about 1 million people entering the workforce every year, and the economy, the same in Europe at the moment, is not being able to create the jobs that are needed for the generation that are coming through. So if we look at trends in Vietnam and Asia, in terms of candidates, if you look at, say, Adecco and Manpower, we're very, very similar to a public employment agency. We're there to get people work. What we're starting to see across the board, even, the millennium generation, X generation and Y generation, is they're actually having more of a wait and see approach. Definitely in Asia, it's more of a candidates market. In Europe, you'll tend to find it's more of a client's market. So the clients will have, or companies will have, maybe 10, 15, 20 people applying for a position. So they can be a bit more picky and choosy as a company on who they're looking to hire. In Asia, it's completely the other way around. It's a candidates market. So if you're a very, very good candidate, you have the skill sets, and it's not so much about the education, it's more about the personality, the profile, then you may have 2 or 3, 4, 5 companies all offering you a position. There's a lot more investment in vocational training, especially in emerging markets such as probably Laos, Cambodia, Philippines and Vietnam. You tend to find that there isn't the soft skills. And that's one of the major things that companies, our clients, will complain about. Yes, they have the degree, but they don't have the skill sets. They don't have the work attitude. So probably more for us is it's less about career guidance, but it's more about having a work attitude. Being able to understand when you go into work what's actually expected of you. That's what we find in Vietnam and also in Asia as a company, that the clients are saying, yes, they know they want to be a banker, they know they want to do sales and marketing, they have the degree, but they don't have the skills, the soft skill sets, and that tends to be the big gap for companies in Asia. What we're seeing is then also companies are looking for different solutions. Obviously you have managed business solutions, you have outsourcing, you have temporary, but when a company takes on an intern or a full-time employee, it's a big investment on an FTE. Everybody has headcount restrictions. I'm sure you all have budgets. Yes, you all have budgets. You all have restrictions on your headcount. So what we're seeing with companies is they're looking for alternative solutions, because although they need to bring the talent on board and they want to build their talent mapping, their succession plan, what they have is they have restrictions in FTE. So they're looking at different solutions, temporary, outsourcing, or like a managed business solution, so that they can hire the people, but then they have a lower risk. When you bring somebody on permanently into an organisation, it's a high risk if they don't work out. But if you offer them temporary or a different part-time or an internship, it lowers the risk for the company. And what we're tending to see at the moment is companies want to have that low risk, because bringing on an employee in terms of the cost, and then also if they don't work out, exiting them is very hard. It's very difficult to do that. Okay, so that's the way the world of work is at the moment. What we look at is when people are choosing their careers, or when candidates come in to see us, okay, is they're very much they're more interested in more than a job, okay. They have very, very high expectations, especially the generation that is born after 1994, you know. I was born in 73, and it always makes me cringe when I look at an application form and it's 1981, 1989, etc. It makes me feel very, very old. But they have a totally different expectation of what you're supposed to do as a company and how you're supposed to hire them. They're looking for leaders. The generation, that 18 to 24 age range, you know, they were brought up with Google, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. So they're looking for that type of dynamic leader when they look for a job. They're not looking just as a brand or a company, but they're looking for the whole culture. They're looking for the whole. If you look at our logo, it's better work, better life, but that's what people are looking for. You know, they don't want just a pay packet now. They want the whole work culture. They want the whole methodology. They want the whole leadership of an organisation. They're a lot more entrepreneurial. You know, they want to do things their way, okay? So they expect to have different flexibilities in terms of work, you know, part-time, full-time, you know, mobile, being able to use work at home, have the laptop, have iPhones, etc. So they're looking for a totally different way of work from what we had, you know, when we were growing up, where it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. They want to have that flexibility. They're more loyal to themselves. It's more about me, in terms of that generation, okay, which is very, very different to, I think, for a lot of us, when we started in our career, you know, it was all about what we can do for the company. So their expectations are completely different. So when we look at what career advice that we're going to give them, we have to adapt to how they want to, what they want, and how they want to learn it as well. Okay, so if you look at Gen Y, this is also relevant for the millenniums or Generation Z. So they're the largest consumer group in Asia and also in most countries. They have a high disposable income and they want to be tapped in or approached in a totally different way. Give you an example, in Vietnam, less than 8% of all jobs are advertised in newspapers. 20 years ago, everything would have been advertised on a newspaper, but now it's less than 8%. It's all about WhatsApp, mobile phone alerts. I don't know whether Manpower have your WhatsApp, so that you get if you register with some recruitment companies, if the job comes on board that you want, it will WhatsApp you and send you a text message to say, you know, this company has now a job, do you want to apply? You know, where 15, 20 years ago you looked in the newspaper, you know, and you applied and you had a hard copy letter, you know. So it's a completely different way of doing things. They're involved, as I said, in more charity work. Raised in comfort, you know, this is the first generation that really there's not been any major wars or anything like that, so they're a lot more probably confident in themselves. You know, even if you look at the global crisis, especially in Asia, it didn't really hit. You know, especially in Vietnam, you know, the economic crisis didn't really hit Vietnam at all. And if you were to ask that 18 to sort of 28 age range, they sort of know that something happened, but they're not fully aware. So they have a different type of confidence and also a different type of understanding of what's happening in the world. As I said, it's all about what's happening within the organisation, who the leader is, are they dynamic, okay? They are hard-working, but on their own terms. you know. I tend to find my staff are very hardworking, but also very, very stubborn and very, very opinionated. When I've had my first job, you know, I would make my boss a cup of tea, and I would never argue with making him a cup of tea 3 times a day, you know, whereas my staff will go, well, that's not my job, you know. So you sort of, you know, they want it, but they want it on their terms. So in terms of attracting the talent or giving career advice, it's making sure it's all about education, understanding that companies are paying the correct salary for the job. So when you've got companies that are coming in and advertising for positions, it's also making sure that they are paying the right level of compensations and benefits for the role. It's all about marketing. That company has to market itself to bring people in. Looking at attractive benefits and bonuses, okay? It's also showing the people that there's something going on, you know, and there's also something going on with your candidates, you know. When we sell candidates to companies, we do key skill selling. So we try and then maybe take 5 key points off the applicant and then sell it into the company, you know, so there's something going on with that person, you know, that's why somebody should be offered a job. Looking at being perceived as an employer of choice, there's a lot of branding now that companies do to attract people. Also looking at how HR and marketing work together. You probably will, when you work with the companies that use people, you know, you are dealing with HR, but it's also important to probably reach out for marketing departments as well and say, how are you perceived as a company? How are you going to attract people? How are you going to attract the talent? You know, how can we market you as a company of choice to be able to get other interns within the company? Even getting the companies out into your centres to do recruitment days or a day in the life of, you know, a manager or a secretary. So it's really important to reach out to the marketing department of the companies as well as HR. So if we look at then sort of for Adecco, who would be our candidates, okay, this is a sort of career that a normal applicant for Adecco and Manpower and the agencies would have. Probably the way that most of our applicants have their career, I suppose, guidance or career input would be because they've started temporary. You know, it's the same as your internships between 18 and 22. You know, most people will work their way through university and support themselves. So we try and push as many people to do temporary work, okay, to be able to learn different skills. If you're doing temporary work, then you can go and you can be a waitress, you can do bar work, you can work in different departments. It allows you to have that flexibility, and also it allows you to understand how to work. One of the biggest issues that we find with sort of like the 18 to 24-year-olds is they actually don't know how to work. You know, they don't know how to turn up on time, how to negotiate, how to work in a team. So there's certain skills that they're missing. So what we do is we've given them temporary work, then they start to learn those skill sets. Then they would move on to more of a professional staffing, where they would have probably 2 to 3 years experience, okay, and then they would move on to more of an executive. So we see that our candidates or our applicants, you know, the temporary is the starting block, because with temporary work, whether it's part-time, full-time or even internships, they actually get an understanding. It's more about the work environment and understanding how to work. What you will find, especially for big Fortune 500 companies, they're doing massive drives on internships. I think KPMG or Deloitte took on 500 students and then are paying for them to have their degrees, and then the people work for them during the summer as interns, because there's such a talent shortage. So this is also another way of giving people an understanding of what their career is going to be like and what skills they need to do different jobs. So what we sort of look at is, in terms of career guidance or career advice for us, it's more about the skills. Unless they're being a doctor or, it's vocational position, we look more at the skill sets that people need to have rather than a qualification. As an agency, and we tend to find that companies, if I put it from a company perspective, companies want to look at the skills. If we look at, if I put 5 people forward for a chief accountant's position in Vietnam, they all have the same degree. Every single one of them will have the same degree and probably have gone to the same university. But what the client will look at is the skills. So I'm looking at it a totally different way. It's more about how you're going to build the skills of the people to be able for them to have a career. They need to understand how to work. We look at flexible work, temp, contract, internships. Currently, at the moment, I've got 10 interns working for us. So what we're trying to do is get them to go through different departments so that hopefully in a year, they're going to be at a certain level. But you'll find that most companies will take on interns as well. We look at a lot of leadership, skill building. It's a lot of coaching people. You have to do a lot of one-to-one, okay? And then we try and promote like a life-work balance with people. So it's very much not just giving career advice. You have to give the whole 360 to this generation that's coming through. So if we look at career advice and then how companies view it, how candidates and clients view it, I've taken a bit of a view on women because obviously that's 50% of the workforce as well. What we tend to find is in regards to women, there is a difference between European and in Asia. Okay, all right. So there are different barriers. So that's also when you're looking at giving career advice to people, especially women, it needs to be slightly different than what you'd give to males. Okay, let me quickly go through. So when you're looking at giving career advice or speaking to companies and how they're going to approach this generation that's coming through, it's really important that they have to create an employee branding within their organisation. Okay, so if you look at our branding, we try and make sure that every opinion is treated the same. So we promote ourselves as a brand that's very open. People can come and talk to us as an open door policy. We assist on personal accountability. Again, when you're giving career advice, a lot of the time people don't realise what a manager does, and what's the responsibility, what's the accountability of, being a manager. A lot of people in the generation that's coming through, it's all about a job title. It's all about the salary, etc. So part of what we do when we bring staff on board and we're giving them advice about what your career would be like with Adecco or your career with a company, we also talk about your accountability. It's great having a title, but you need to understand what you need to deliver with the title. We try and adopt an exchange approach. This is really important with giving internships or trainees, getting them to work through different departments and understanding what different roles do and what their accountability and responsibility is. We foster a yes culture. I try and say to my guys, yes, you can come to me with a problem, but please try and come to me with a solution. So if they don't have a solution, then they don't come to you with a problem, and then they come to you with the problem and there's no solution. So we try and make sure that they are more accountable and they try to also think out of the box, especially with, again, emerging markets. The education system is very parrot fashion. Everyone sits there and follows the chalkboard, so it's trying to get them again to think out the box, because that will then help them decide what career that they want to do and also understand the responsibility. We've stopped trying to create a perfect workplace. Every organisation has its ups and downs. So we try and make it a realistic place to work. So there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, because also what we find is that this generation that's coming through, they're so idealistic. They think every company is like a Google or Microsoft to work in, and their culture's like that. So what we try and do is manage expectations on what the career, what your talent path is actually going to be. Okay, so I think I'm probably up. Yeah? Am I up? Yep, okay. So the rest of it is in the presentation. So I thought I'd get it done. That's it. Okay. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the macro level and policy perspective of the employment service, and I would like not to mention the differences between public and private employment service provider. I would like to bring in some technical aspect and operational perspective of personnel acquisition for employment service providers as a trainer and as the development practitioners. Very first part of my presentation will be very quickly overview of the role of employment service in the labor market. We see ourselves not distinguish between private or public, but as the facilitator of labor market, where we speed up and make it easier for demand and supply to meet each other. Here's the very interesting information from getting from European statistics, observing several countries, and here we would like to emphasize on the key message that for policymakers or for any economy, we may choose to pursue active or passive policy, employment policy. For why the passive policy emphasize on dealing with the unemployment or early retirement issue, we highly appreciate and take it as the significant change if we pursue active labor market policy when majority of efforts focusing on job generation or employment promotion. Here's the time series data making comparison between Denmark and Spain is very contrast picture of the two countries. The first one, Denmark, pursuing active labor market policy, and the Spain for passive policy. And as you see that the more share of budget expenditure spent on the active policy, the better employment. For Manpower as the service employment service agency, we identify ourselves and other counterparts as the key player in the labor market. We work with different stakeholders, serving them as our clients, including government, university, training institution, enterprises and individuals. This is the picture of Manpower Group at the global level. In Manpower Vietnam, when we've been in Vietnam for more than 5 years, and up to now we just working with government, enterprises and individuals. And this year, actually recently, we get invitation from university and training institution to discuss and to formulate some kind of memorandum of understanding for further collaboration and to be a connection between enterprises and training institution. We are still under discussion and trying to get new initiative to bring it go live. Here we focus on some key concepts when we are trying to utilize the global expertise, global best practice, customized with local context and take into account culture aspect and also individual behavior. As Nicola already mentioned, we see significant change in behavior of different generation. Me as the quite young in comparison with majority of you here in the workshop, but in Manpower Vietnam, I belong to the elderly association. They named me as the chairwoman of the elderly association in the company. So we see that, and myself, I observe that I have a different reaction to changes, reaction to different options of my life in comparison with my younger colleagues. The second part of my presentation, going down to ground floor for talent acquisition and development. I would like to bring here some perspective of HR practitioner when we are facing the difficulties in filling our vacancy ourselves. We are not exception. You know that there exists the skill shortage, and we face the same difficulties with other enterprises. The very first starting point is our vision. Manpower Group, our vision is to lead in creation and delivery of innovative workforce solution and service that enable our clients to win in the changing world of work. Specifically, we focus on the values. We focus on people, on knowledge, and innovation. And that is the very first starting point when we start our recruitment plan or formulating job description for individual consultant of different business unit. And then we are trying to customize the expectation and direction to the Vietnam labor market. In 2011, Manpower Group, in collaboration with Molisa, conducted a skill shortage survey. And here you see on the screen a snapshot of the surveys when we show that majorities of companies facing difficulties in filling their vacancy, both in senior managerial position and also the unskilled workforce. And you see that why we, in the last couple of years, we experiencing economic downturns and a series of enterprises downsize, close down, or restructure to save the cost, and significant reduction in the labor workforce. And this coexists with skill shortages and difficulties faced by employers. And the answer is misaligned between qualification skills required by employers and those obsessed by employee labels. Here in Manpower, we are trying to identify what kind of qualification, competency we need in a consultant. We have different consultant, recruitment consultant, and also career transition advisor, also we call consultant. In some specific section, we combine these two functions with some very senior and mature consultant. And here is the model we apply. We categorize under KSAO, knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics. This is the model that we use as a solution for skill shortage. We face the difficulties in getting people on board. Who should be career guidance advisor? Who should be our consultants? No one was trained to do the consultants. And we need a very complex set of skills to deliver such kind of service. Very new in Vietnam. And even our current staff now, it takes time for them to determine this is a career, not a job. Not only a job. We seek to achieve the satisfaction of our employees rather than, happiness, short-term happiness in doing a day-to-day job. And in facing with difficulty of getting people on board, we are trying to identify what competency is the core, is the a must that that the consultant should have. And this is, we put it as the task for recruitment team. We call talent acquisition. And in these key knowledge, key KSIOs, we also again divide into two sections. What is the must that they must have? And the second part is transferable from other industry. And now the top of the triangle is the competency, the skills that we considered trainable during the job. In practice, what were we doing? In recruitment, we're trying to measure when getting people on board. We are trying to measure, can the person do the job when you do it, and do you fit, and do they fit? What methodology we apply? We apply the behavior-based interview, or in some case we use competency-based, a little bit different. Career harmony, people key assessment tool as the personality and ability, and also interpersonal skill assessment. And another exercise is the presentation. We want to make sure that they are good communicators. They can understand people and can get people understood. And then they must serious listening to their clients or candidates or job seekers. They must give smart answer. They must be able to provide, to raise probing critical questions. I believe myself that the coach may not be a good football player, may not have achievement as good as football player, but the role of the coach is important because they have experience. They can shorten the career path for people. In this case, I can tell for sure that I am an evidence of career transition, and I see myself as keep learning my whole life, and not education but transformation. My perception, awareness, and also change the behavior, change the reaction to life, and the result completely different from individual to individual. And you see, when we measure can, win, and fit, we measure different perspective of a staff, whether they have skill, relevant skill, knowledge, and experience, whether they have good attitude, open attitude for learning. When they do, are they interested in joining Manpower? Are they interested in to be an advisor or a consultant? Do they show the energy level? Do they show trust? And finally, if they fit in terms of mentally and physically. And then after getting on board, now's the time for training. And we have a different kind of training for our consultant. The very first one is the induction training, when we provide them, equip them with information on what is Manpower Group, what are we working, the philosophy of our approach, who are our clients, and the vision, the values, and also a very, very important part is code of business conduct and ethics, and SOP, standard operation procedure. It's very important, and I think it's practical and useful for every consultant if we can develop an SOP package. And then on the job, and annually we have a performance review for individual. And this is a time we, one-to-one, sitting with line manager to see whether they need some improvement in some specific skill, whether they need some classroom training provided by external provider, or self-learning. And on the job training, we see this, the most important part of our training program is the different kind of update. We may not see it as a training, but like an information exchange section, information sharing section and update, especially for labor code and relevant legislation update. Thought leadership and industry knowledge is very important. Industry knowledge, when we share the latest information by industry, we have different teams of consultants specialized in different industries, and some of them may be assigned to do some research task and then make presentation to other colleagues in this section to make sure that we are on the same page, understanding of the market trend, industry trends, and also who is the key players. And this is very important for our success, because we make no success if we just advise the job seekers where to find the job and equip them with the skill. On the other hand, we need to make sure that the jobs are available there, and where to find out where the job pools are, and that is the two sides of day-to-day work of consultants. I think this is the very brief presentation of mine for the operation level of talent acquisition and training. Questions and comments are appreciated.